Did you guys see what's going on with Candace Owens?
Yeah.
Indy 100, Australians react to Candace Owens' call for U.S. to invade over COVID restrictions. And we also have this from Time. U.S. conservatives want to save Australia from COVID tyranny. Australians aren't interested. So the media is running this claim because Candace Owens made a joke where she was like, paraphrasing, she was like, look how bad it is in Australia. I mean, when are we deploying? Obviously, I say that in jest. But, you look at... And so they're like, oh, publish it. Candace Owens wants to invade Australia. This is what happens when you have people who believe this. We're screwed, man.
Well, and the other thing about it is there's tons of complaints in Australia, but they know that if they say anything, there's some very prominent personalities, other people we've talked to who've made it clear they can't talk about Australia publicly, even when they're not physically there because of what might happen to their friends or their family back home. That's how bad it is. It is at that level.
And I have friends and other people that I know in Australia, and I ask them the question, but I don't trust the answers because I do genuinely feel that they are afraid to even speak it on social media and DMs because they know it can be.
Police show up at people's homes for Facebook posts in Australia.
Look at
freaking hell.
I'll shout out Avi Yamini, who is a Rebel News journalist in Australia doing God's work is an understatement. It's over the top there. They show up to your house and they arrest you for organizing a protest.
Quillette, it was considered to be like the IDW publication when the intellectual dark web was all big and everything. And they are completely defensive of. They are pro-mandate, pro-lockdown, pro-camp. And then it was Mike Cernovich. He tweeted out one of these stories, like a video of a guy being indefinitely quarantined. And he was like, where's Quillette? You'd think a freedom, publication would have a lot to write about. And then someone said something. My response was, Avi Yemeni is, on the ground. He's covering these stories. So there you go.
Let's call a spade here. What's happening in Australia is tyranny. It's over the top. It's draconian. It's government literally forcing its will in the most nastiest, disgusting ways on the people when the people don't want it. There have been major protests. There have been major crackdown against protests. And I think one of the reasons why politicians in the United States and journalists in the United States aren't really talking about it is because they really want to implement some of the same policies here in the United States. And you could see that. They call for the same things, the same mandates, the same restrictions, the same lockdowns. And it's utterly insane. Now, Melbourne, just a few days ago, announced that they're getting rid of their lockdowns. They had 262 days of stay-at-home orders, of people being locked down, not being able to go outside. People were screaming outside of their balconies just a few hours ago because they lifted some of these restrictions and they allowed people to go out at night. So again, what's happening in Australia is just beyond draconian, beyond 1984. China's literally blushing at what Australia is willing to do against their own people. And for that other article to say the Australian people don't want this, how do you know? Are you talking to all the Australian people? Because there sure as hell has been a lot of protests, a lot of people standing up, a lot of people speaking out, even though they face the full might of a technocratic police state that shows up at their door because they spread wrong think on the internet.
Luke, the Australians don't want this. They don't want liberation. And I know because Time magazine says Australian lawmakers took to Twitter to school American critics of the country's COVID-19 public health measures. That proves it.
Yes.
Because these lawmakers were elected by the people. That means they're the will of the people, and the Australian people are very happy that all this is happening.
What's extraordinary in the United States and in most of the Western world is how often they have not utilized the legislative process. How often this has circumvented the legislative process, circumvented the judicial process, who mostly sort of cowered rather than deal with it. You just had executive orders by unelected officials who just basically put us in a real live Milgram experiment. Let's see how much we can get away with. Let's see how much people will tolerate. And unfortunately, we found out a lot of people would tolerate much more than we would like.
So I tweeted out, there was a picture of the quarantine camps. I think it was in Melbourne. And someone said quarantine camp. I'd put asterisk concentration camp. And then it was some writer from Quillette or whatever. And then it was Claire Lehman herself. She was like, we are not building death camps, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I didn't say death camp. I did say concentration camp, trying to allude to what these things could be. But then she ends up writing in The Spectator that, popular American pundit Tim Pool says this, that, and otherwise. And I'm like, if you really want to call me out, man, please do so, because I would love to point out how much of a coward Claire Lehman of Quillette is and how their publication are a bunch of cowards. And I will tell you this. I will say two things. If Google ever came to me and said, show us your vaccine documentation or we're deleting your channel, I'd be like, I do nothing.
Don't give them any ideas, Tim. But the issue is this. It's I'm going to lose my thought again, Robert. It was
About
the
Clearlyman.
I was going to say one more thing.
Go for it,
Because I
go for
said
it.
two things. The other thing is, if the United States was in the position that Australia was in with camps and permanent lockdown, I would be saying the exact same things I am now. I don't care what the risks are. They can come to my house and they can say you're going on indefinite quarantine, and I'm not going to shut up.
And you gave me time to think of what I was going to say.
There you go.
The media pretends not to understand a joke when they want to demonize the person who said it. It
Right.
was clearly a joke, and they pretend that it was a serious statement. And not to bring it back
Candace's.
to the PPC, Maxime Bernier, the leader of the PPC, at one point put out a tweet that said Maoists have invaded our government and are trying to take over, making a joke about how it looks like we're imitating China, Mao's China in Canada. The Journal de Montréal, or La Presse, one of the media, ran with it as though he was seriously saying we're being infiltrated by communists. And the media, when it wants to lambaste someone, pretends that a joke is not a joke.
Well, no, hold on. I think they genuinely don't know what jokes are. I mean that literally. I'm not being sarcastic or facetious. I actually don't think they understand jokes.
Yeah, that's Mark
So-
Robert's argument. He argues that stated societies can't handle comedy.
It's so I tweet things that are often nonsensical, and they're all taken literally by the left. And I'm just like, so I have a friend who is, I don't know if, I'm assuming we're still friends, a very prominent Hollywood personality who messaged me saying, you need to understand that when you tweet these things, there are people who think they're real. And I was like, please, if that is true, and I think it might be, we are in serious trouble. Because like when I post something, I posted President Biden as Cornholio because he did the Cornholio thing. I said, who did this? It's so disrespectful to the president. My favorite was when I said impeach the Queen. So
Yes.
it was like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but something happened with Queen Elizabeth, and I said impeach Queen Elizabeth, and a website, NewsGuard Certified, ran it as fact.
Oh, yeah.
Personality Tim Pool calls for impeaching the Queen, and then I became adamant that Wikipedia include the statement because it was a reliable source. It was fact-based.
But in fairness, someone who doesn't know you and doesn't know your political leanings or your position might think you're a very sensitive individual who found it to be
Impeach the
offensive.
Queen.
No, not even who did this to Joe Biden. It's disrespectful. But things get taken literally on Twitter.
Twitter is awesome.
And then things, if you put in hashtag sarcasm, everyone's like, oh, you think your followers are so stupid they don't know you're joking?
Yeah.
So it's a lose-lose.
Have you seen Michael Malice's tweets today?
Not today.
His
About
are
Alec
great.
Baldwin.
Oh,
His are the best.
It can only be good.
I can't say some of his tweets,
No,
but I was laughing like crazy. Wow. I tweet a lot of just like silly stuff. I retweeted Shoe on Head. She said, I effing hate liberals. I don't have any other politics. And that was just fantastic. And she did it because this like liberal guy was insulting her because she was making fun of Alec Baldwin or something. I don't know, whatever. Twitter is fun.
Now I got to go see. I'm glad I put my phone on the floor so I don't
Get distracted.
go see Michael Malice's tweets. But that's next on my list.
Oh,
wonder
there's so many memes out there.
Did you see his
Spicy.
tweets?
Oh my gosh, so hot.
Let me see if I can pull something up. Michael, you
Rapscallion.
troll. Yeah, you rapscallion. I don't think I can.
No, don't read it.
Oh my God.
I see a
can't
meme.
read
I can't.
these.
I see a meme and I
They
can't.
said comedy
do it.
was tragedy plus time. I don't know
Yeah.
that there's
Who
been enough
needs
time yet
time?
for that. Oh my!
He's just been going off all day.
It's been great. I've been enjoying
I've
it.
got to be able to read at least one so you understand like what he's saying, but I don't know if I can. I'm trying to find one. All right.
Oh boy.
Okay. I am calling for a total and complete shutdown of Hollywood film production until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on.
Yes.
Hashtag Alec Baldwin. That's the one, but below it is, I'm just going to read it, screw it. He
What?
says, in the culture wars, it's currently a draw between Charlottesville and Alec Baldwin.
Oh, that's brutal.
Wow.
That was
Yeah.
brutal.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, back to the main point.
Anyway.
When you are a rigid ideologue, you don't understand jokes.
Right.
NPC is probably like the best
Yeah,
descriptor for a
it
lot
is.
of these people. So like I was saying, like I have a friend who's like, you know, people don't realize you're not being serious with these things. And I was like, isn't that really crazy? So then I started tweeting after she told me this. I started posting things on Twitter. After I'd say a joke, I'd say, the above tweet is not serious. I'm told I have to put this here because people aren't smart enough to understand. Unfortunately, that may be reality.
The other issue is like, at some point in time, you appreciate how historically general populations didn't know of the atrocities that were going on in their own countries because of the fact that the media was being censored and strictly limited by the government. And I can wholeheartedly believe that there are some Australians who don't even think it's that bad in Australia right now because they just don't know. And they don't even know what's going on in their own country because the media can't report on it freely.
Even though they have to walk around with QR codes in some places to get
in
permission
certain
to
states,
get into. And now they're implementing one of the strictest vax passports than anywhere else in the world, where if you don't comply, you can't work in the public sector, in the private sector. You go into a business that you're not supposed to be in, or a business that's indoor, thousands of dollars of fines levied against you and the business for just existing as a human being. And again, what's happening there, there's police officers, when people are gathering for a protest, they just open fire with less lethal munitions and rubber bullets right away.
They
don't even ask any questions, arresting people for walking in nature by themselves because they weren't wearing a mask.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.